this is Unit 5 review. Question number 1, is it a function, yes or no? So remember that's if I draw a vertical line up and down anywhere on this graph, does it ever touch the graph more than once? And in this case, the answer is no. And only once is a good thing. That means yes, it is a function. That means you cannot be in two places at once. And this graph doesn't have that, so that's a good thing. So from here, we want domain and range. Domain, you go from the left to the right. This is all your x values, x-axis. So from the left, the first spot we come to as we come across the page is -2. So -2 gets listed, and it is an open circle. As you come across over and over, notice that we have the point 1 is open, and there's skipping numbers right here. So in between 1 and 3, there's no line. There's no graph, which means that the domain is going to have to be 2 intervals. We're going to have to stop at the number 1. So, comma 1. And we're going to have to start another interval and go from 3 to 4. 3 is open and 4 is closed. So the domain has 2 intervals, and the range, so if we look at the range is y values. If we come up from the bottom, what is our y value to start with? Well, the y right here at the green line is 0. And again, this point is open, so it's parentheses at 0. Notice as you go up, the graph is over in this side. There is an open circle, but over here the graph includes that number. So you keep going up and the graph keeps continuing, and here there's open, but if you come over here, it's solid. So you just include it as answers. In this particular one, for the range, it includes everything in between 0 and 4. So the highest point on this graph, we go from 0 at the bottom up to 4 is the highest place that we reach. 4 is closed, so box it. Maximum is the highest spot on the graph, and here the maximum is, we do have one, it would be over 4, up 4. So our maximum is 4, 4. It's just naming it as an ordered pair, x, y. For our minimum, if you look at our graph, it looks like it's at this point here, 1, 0. However, that is not an actual point. The graph gets closer and closer to that point, but that is not an actual point. So for the minimum, we're going to say it's not defined. Increasing. As you go across the page from left to right, notice that this first line is going down while this second part is going up. So for increasing, again, increasing, decreasing, please remember that you go left to right and we use the x values. So here, I'm going to switch it around. Make sure that we have our blue color back because we're using x values. So here we know that it is, oh, that is not changing. It is from 3, positive 3, and it increases until we reach 4. So that interval, again, remember you have to use the x values. It goes from 3 to 4. 3 is open, 4 is closed. Decreasing, again, we're going to use these x numbers. We've got -2, and it decreases all the way until we get to 1. So negative 2, comma 1. And those are both open circles, therefore just negative 2, 1 is parentheses. Find f of 4. In this one, we are talking about inside. Inside is x because it's the input. Input. That means we're looking for the y value. So if we go to the x-axis and we go to the number 4, we want the y value, the output. Or y values go up and down. In this case, to get to the line, we need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's when we hit the point. So notice that that point is 4, comma, and we just found that the y value is 4. We had to go over 4, up 4 to get there. So 4. If the f of x equals 4, this 4 represents the output, or y. And we are trying to find x. So we go to 4 on the y-axis. We want x. X's go side to side. And notice here, there's no points over on the left. So don't go that way. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 squares to the right. And so that's positive 4, which makes sense because we already had x, y as 4 and 4. So if we have a y value of 4, the x value also must be 4, because that's what we had in the problem before. Next problem, number 2. Identify the following. Function yes or no. If you draw your straight vertical line up and down, is there anywhere it hits twice? The answer is no, so that's a good thing. That means yes, it is a function. Domain. Domain is x. So we're going to come from the very most left you can go on the graph, which in this case, there's an arrow, and all the way over to the very right on the graph, the farthest you can go. So we've got negative infinity because these numbers on the left are negative. Negative infinity, comma, we go all the way over to the right, and we are at the number 4. 4 is open, so open on both sides. The range, the bottom to the top. Here, as I come up from the bottom, the first number I come to is the number 1. However, because there's this arrow, do you see that that line continues even farther past the line that I've drawn out at 1. Therefore, you must go with what the arrow says. It's going to keep going down, down, down forever. So in the range, we must say it's negative infinity, comma, all the way to the top here. And it does actually reach a stopping point on the top. There's no arrow going upwards. So in this case, it is 3. It's open here, but notice over here in this spot, it's a solid line. That means this spot here is closed and closed wins out. So this 3 point must have a box bracket. The maximum is the highest point on the graph. Again, it's those two places we just looked at, except this is open. Therefore, that is not an actual solution. It is going closer to that point but never gets there. So your maximum is right here. And you go left 2 and up 3 as we're writing it as an ordered pair. So negative 2 comma 3. And from here, I've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to just get rid of this. Next part, we want the minimum. Again, remember that we had this arrow here. So it does look like this spot is the minimum, but it's not, because that line, that arrow goes down farther. So there is not a minimum, ND. Increasing. So as you slide your pencil across the paper from the left to the right, notice that this slope from negative infinity to this number right here, -2, notice that this line has a positive slope. As you slide your pencil across, it is going up. So when you write your increasing interval, again, we use the x numbers, which would be negative infinity, and the number that we circled here is -2. And that spot is a solid line. It's a box bracket on -2. Decreasing, well, as you slide your pencil across the paper, notice that it's going, the line is curving down all the way until we get to this point, which would be from -2 all the way to +1 right here. It is closed on both because it's solid lines on both. However, the graph, if you keep going from the left to the right, it again increases. So you need to list another interval for increasing. It is from +1 all the way to 4. So for increasing, I'm just going to draw an arrow and say it's from +1 to 4. Oh, 4 should be open, right? Oops. From there, we want to find f of 1. So the 1, since it's inside the parentheses, the 1 represents x. So we're going to go to the x-axis, and we're going to look at the number 1 right here. We want to know the y value, the output. So if you go over 1, we need to go up or down. In this case, we go up 1 square, and that's all we needed to do, and we're on the line. So the y value, the output is 1. Notice that this point is named 1, 1. This 3 right here represents y. It's the output. So we go to 3 on the y-axis. If I go 4 squares, notice, to the right, this is not a point. So we don't want to go that way. We want to go to where it actually is a point. It's solid, filled in. So that would take us 2 squares to the left. So we don't want to go right since that's open. That's an open circle. So we're going to go 2 squares left. That would be -2. Okay, function. On here, some people were a little bit confused with this piece in the middle. It is still slanting because the line is curving. It's not vertical, straight up and down. And everywhere else on the graph, we see that it's only going to hit one time, straight up and down, so that's good. Yes. Domain, from the very, there's an arrow over here, if you can't see it on this video. So we've got an arrow all the way over to the very right of the graph as far as we can go. We've got an arrow on the left. Left numbers are negative, and on the right we have a +4. And that +4 is a solid line, so close it. From the range, this arrow only goes out to the side. It never goes up, never goes down. So the range, we got the bottom number here at -1, and we have the top number up here at 3. So -1, 3. Again, those are solid lines, so we're going to box it. The maximum. This line is made up of many points. So the very highest place on the graph, that is a point, and you name that point. So it is over 2, up 3. 2, 3. I name that point x, y. And from here we do have a minimum. The minimum on our graph is going to be this point here, because the line is made up of many points. Notice I go left 1, down 1 to get this point. So that is what we have for our minimum. Increasing. So from here, let's go ahead and go from the left to the right. Notice this piece right here we don't care about. That's not increasing, it's not decreasing. But starting at the number -2, all the way down to the